Goku and Vegeta are staging the fight of their lives against a powerful but incredibly generic opponent. It's Dragon Ball Dissection! And it's Dragon Ball Dissection December, my month-long Dragon Ball Dissection marathon. We're now already at the third installment of the month. And because Yi Xing Long is such a bore, let's pivot away from him for just a little bit. When we started DBD December this year, I stated that I was going to be talking about the dragons themselves and how, when the writing isn't there, fans are going to fill in the gaps for the show. I wanted to get a little farther in the story so I wasn't bogged down in uninterrupted navel-gazing for too long, but before we get into the final phases of the final fight, I think I want to go ahead and talk about it. In Part 3, I covered Goku's and Pon's fight against Yi Xing Long. Now, during that encounter, Chi reveals he was created by the wish made to bring those killed by the Babidi-controlled Vegeta back to life. Initially, I tried to work that bit of information into the video, but I ultimately cut it out. I knew even then I was going to be coming back to this topic after all the dragons had been introduced, so I didn't think it was worth wasting my time or yours bringing it up. Several of you clearly disagreed. But here's the thing. I definitely get granular when talking about Dragon Ball, especially in recent years, but I always try to have a purpose for everything I say. Whenever I bring something up, it's because I have an opinion I want to share, there's a common misconception I want to clear up, or I have a larger point I'm tying into. I'm either trying to persuade or educate. I haven't said this in a while, but I used to remind my viewers that this is Dragon Ball Dissection, not Dragon Ball plot synopsis. I cut that bit about Yi Xing Long out because it just didn't fit anywhere. All I was doing was stopping the momentum of the video, breaking up a seamless thought, in order to info dump at you. There was nothing about that factoid that tied into my insights on Chi's actions, where the story was going, Goku's and Pon's struggles. I thought I could justify it by tying it into Pon's joke about how she doesn't think that wish fits him, but again, that's what I planned to talk about today. Given that that was the only justification, I cut it out. And I'm not saying all this to shame anybody for daring to voice criticism, but because it speaks to the point I want to make. The wishes are to the show like that line was to my script. They're irrelevant. The evil dragons are made from past wishes on the Dragon Balls. The evil dragons, broadly speaking, have nothing to do with the wishes that made them. Now, I have talked about this to some extent. I do think that Yi Xing Long is something of an exception to that. She at least has an opinion about the wish that made her. That's not a lot, but it's something. I think that's primarily because she's one of the only dragons made from a memorable wish that could actually be played with and commented upon. Still, it's not like she really has anything to do with panties. This isn't a story about ironic comeuppance, monkey's paw kinds of wishes. The evil dragons aren't really themed around the wishes that made them. That would be really hard given that most of the wishes are the same wish, resurrection. But the dragons don't, say, target the people responsible for making the wishes or the people who were the recipients of them. For example, Yi Xing Long isn't drawn towards the Tenkaichi grounds, Liang Xing Long isn't hunting down Bora. The wishes are so irrelevant that even the show stops bringing them up in much the same way I did. We only know what wishes made San Xing Long and Yi Xing Long because they're listed in Dragon Ball GT Perfect File Volume 2. For reference, Yi Xing Long is said to be made from the wish to bring those killed by Frieza back to life, and San Xing Long is... Actually, this is where it gets complicated. Well, not really. It's simple. San Xing Long is made from the wish to erase people's memories of Majin Buu. But I got comments early on insisting that San Xing Long was made from the wish to revive those killed by Piccolo. Some of them even claimed that it was a contradiction, that while the perfect file says Buu, the show itself actually says Piccolo. I legitimately panicked when people started telling me that. Did I get it wrong? Did I prioritize a guidebook factoid over what was present in the show itself? I re-watched San Xing Long's episodes multiple times, my heart in my throat, waiting for the show to prove me wrong. but it never did. Where was this coming from? Was it a dub change? As I hope most of you know by now, I review Dragon Ball in its original form. I don't watch the English dub. I haven't in over 20 years. Therefore, the changes that might be made, good or bad, aren't relevant. Even if you think what it creates improves on the original show, I obviously can't give the original show credit for that. Heck, it'd be pretty insulting to the dub to do so, because it'd be taking away the credit it deserves. I've never seen GT in English, but I know it takes considerable liberties with the story. I wondered if maybe that Piccolo stuff came from there. I watched those episodes again in English. Still nothing. Maybe that information is contained elsewhere in the dub, but I'm not reviewing the dub, and I'm only willing to go so far to track this down. The only thing I've been able to find asserting this comes from, didn't they help us all, the Dragon Ball Wiki. On its page for Yi Xing Long, who is called Ice Shenron in the dub, it says that he was made by the wish to erase people's memories of Majin Buu, citing the perfect file as a source. But later on the same page, it claims he was made by the wish to resurrect those killed by Piccolo, accompanied by no citation at all. So where does this come from? After thinking about this now for months, I can only presume that people say this because they want it to be true, because it gives the evil dragons the appearance of deeper meaning. See, fans, at least on the Dragon Ball Wiki, and maybe they got this from the dub, I don't know, say that the evil of the evil dragons exists in inverse proportion to the wishes that made them, and they use the two brothers as evidence of that. See, Yi Xing Long was created by a noble wish to resurrect good people killed by a great evil. Therefore, Yi Xing Long is evil. Su Shenlong is the only dragon born of a wish made by a villain when Piccolo wished for his youth. Therefore, he's the only good one. They're both made by wishes related to Piccolo. That explains why they and they alone are twins. And that would be all well and good, except that most of what I just said is not true. Hey, I wish it was. That sounds nice. But I can guess where this started. Like me, fans wondered what was different about Su Shenlong that made him stupid, and they found a fact that happened to correlate. And that fact is, he was made from the Sushinshu, Goku's favorite Dragon Ball, which could actually be considered a compelling reason and is at least alluded to in the show. However, that does diddly to explain any of the other dragons, especially Yi Xing Long, so there has to be another reason. So Su Shenlong is good because he's like the Dragon Ball, but also because he's the opposite of the wish, which is already getting a bit muddled. Then fans kept spinning that wish logic out to every dragon, even a dragon whose wish isn't stated in the show. And because it isn't, they filled in the gap with the most logical answer. Those fan-made connections grew and grew until we arrived at this. A Dragon Ball Wiki list of what all the evil dragons supposedly mean. I want to be very careful right here. Look, I don't think the Dragon Ball Wiki is a very good resource, as evidenced by it containing two conflicting pieces of information on the same page. But a lack of quality is the unfortunate reality for a lot of fan-made wikis. The DB Wiki is often inaccurate, and it frequently reads like an informal collection of fan theories rather than a serious encyclopedia. It propagates a lot of misinformation, and on occasion, like now, it makes my job harder. But at the end of the day, it's not hurting anybody. Hopefully, the young people working on it will hone their writing skills for future projects through their experience in this low-stakes environment. Frankly, I have a hard enough time being critical of professional writers because I know everyone's just doing the best they can. But I'm even less comfortable calling out the writings of fans or implying they're interpreting media wrong, especially when it comes to something like subtext or themes, which can be fairly subjective and interpretive. So I'm not going to dwell on what I'm about to say. I'm not trying to bring down those of you who shared this with me and wanted me to talk about it. But since you wanted me to, I have to say, wow. This sure is something. This is what happens when a show in no way thinks through what its story is about. Some of the items in this section are relatively reasonable enough deductions. For example, this states that Yi Xing Long is the strongest because he was made from the wish that used the most power, that of bringing back Frieza's victims. After all, Shenlong did question whether he could grant a wish so huge, but it's also making the leap that the dragon's strength is directly proportional to the strength of the wish. And if you've been paying attention, you'll remember that's in addition to believing that the character of the dragon is inversely proportional to the character of the wish. It sure seems convenient to these theories that both of those things happen to be true. But then you get the type of claim that insists that because Yi Xing Long was made from the wish to resurrect those killed by Vegeta, and Vegeta was working for Babidi, and Babidi had a spaceship, and that spaceship was buried underground, that's why Yi Xing Long digs in the ground. This is starting to sound like a conspiracy board. When you cast your nets out that wide, you can connect anything together. Again, I don't want to stop you from having fun if this adds to the Dragon Ball GT experience for you. You're entitled to your opinions just as much as I am, and I laud the creativity on display, even if I don't think the show deserves the lion's share of credit for sparking it. However, I think this article is just like its claim that Yi Xing Long can grow to any size because Goku was brought back to life in order to fight the Saiyans, and Saiyans have armor that can also grow to any size. They're both a bit of a stretch. I love subtext. I love deep dives. But let's be real. The evil dragons are generic bad guys, and I don't think the powers that be had even a subconscious inkling they were writing this. If they did, the subtext is buried so deep and results in so little effect on the story, it might as well be non-existent. I'm sorry, but I just cannot in good faith accept these interpretations in my dissection of this arc. This isn't theming. This is 6 degrees from Kevin Bacon. But I'm not going to lie. It was a lot of fun to explore. So yeah, back to the story. Vegeta has announced to Goku that he wants to undergo fusion. I think it's important that Vegeta is the one bringing this up. He has historically been very much against the idea of ever combining with Goku. That he's the one pushing for this is a vain attempt to show how high the stakes supposedly are in this somewhat tepid fight, but more productively, it's another sign that Vegeta has finally grown as a person. He's willing to make sacrifices in order to do the right thing. Honestly, it's Goku's getting on my nerves a little bit, drawing this out by expressing his amusement at this development. Hey, I get it. But Trunks is getting an atomic noogie over here buying time for the two of you to do this, so, maybe do it. But eventually, they do it. They even get it right on the first try. And as I write this, I wonder if this is the first time for this attempt, or the first time that they've ever... Surely Dragon Ball Z Movie 12 isn't meant to be in continuity with this, is it? I mean, logically it couldn't be, but logic has never been of paramount Anyway, Gogeta is here, and now he's a Super Saiyan 4. At least, I think Gogeta is here. Truth be told, he's never referred to by name within the show itself, just in the title of the episode. He does introduce himself with the same "I am neither Goku nor Vegeta" line he uses in the movie, which is why I puzzle over the continuity. Clearly, the show expects the audience to know who Gogeta is, but they leave it fairly ambiguous as to whether the characters know who he is. If you remember my covering Movie 12 3 years ago, I don't particularly care for Gogeta. This one is at least a little more interesting, but the whole fusion thing has become a bit tiresome. At least Gogeta has some fun, I guess, and isn't just a stoic bag of nothing. I do genuinely like when he splits into 5 people to fire 5 Kamehamehas at Yi Xing Long, only for them to pop some celebration crackers on him. The Big Bang Kamehameha is a nice melding of their moves. I don't really have any strong opinions here. It shouldn't surprise you at this point that I'm not screaming, "Ooh, it's Gogeta, I'm so excited!" But clearly, Dragon Ball GT is wanting to be liked right now, and they assume this will do it. Maybe it did. Maybe it does. It's whatever to me. I think the timing is weird, though. I know Vegeta's going to have plenty of screen time over the next several episodes, but I'm a little surprised GT introduces Super Saiyan for Vegeta, which by my estimation is a much more exciting turn, only to immediately swap him out for Gogeta. Frankly, the person who really gets screwed by this development is Oob. After all, you can't spell lube without Oob. Don't think about it. If you remember, and I wouldn't blame you if you don't, the last time we saw Oob was when he was running interference so Goku could get his battery charged. We haven't seen Oob since E swatted him away. I'm a little embarrassed to admit it, but I didn't even notice. I don't think the show noticed either. Nor did the characters. Oob finally stumbles out of the wreckage and wanders over to the other onlookers. And while he probably should say, "Hey, thanks for checking on me, I only got the crap kicked out of me by helping you," he instead raves about how awesome fusion is and starts begging for someone, anyone, to fuse with him. God, this is just so sad. And everyone just looks at him like, ew, no, why? And yeah, that's pretty much it. This show sure loves Oob. Honestly, not all that much happens during the Gogeta section of this fight, which I should mention only takes up 1 episode. The most substantial bit is when Yi Xing Long gets backed into a corner and launches a super strong Powerball. And yeah, Powerball is what he calls it. Gogeta plays it all cool before kicking it into space at the last minute. But that's not all. Gogeta kicking the Powerball into space also dissipates the weird cloud covering the Earth, which I frankly forgot about again, because it really doesn't look all that different most of the time. Gogeta explains he didn't just kick the ball away, he also used his energy to convert the minus energy in the Powerball to plus energy, and when the plus energy in the ball hit the minus energy in the sky, they canceled each other out. What? This had to have been a result of the writer's room going, "Look, we're all going to be out of a job in 4 weeks, so who cares?" I know I just said I don't want to pick on the writers, but I cannot imagine this development coming about any other way. What do you mean he converted the minus energy to plus energy? How can he do that? This makes Goku's attacks can only hurt me the first time seem like hard science by comparison. And how does this work? If Gogeta is a reservoir of plus energy, why doesn't Yi Xing Long cease to exist the first time they touch each other? If plus energy and minus energy cancel each other out, why doesn't kicking the Powerball cause Gogeta to disappear? This kind of crap really does happen a lot in this show, doesn't it? They should have called this show Dragon Ball GT, well that just happened. Then again, this may or may not be the same character who randomly turned Janinba into Sparkles. Clearly, Gogeta can just do things. Gogeta seemingly finishes off Yi Xing Long, but it's a fake out. It's so the same thing that even the already cleansed Dragon Balls pop out of him just so Pan can retrieve one, just so Yi Xing Long can eat them up again. But that's not even the real fake out, because before Gogeta can finish E off again, the fusion wears off. Oh no! It hasn't even been 30 minutes, what a twist! But that's not even the real twist, because just before Yi Xing Long can suck up the Sushinshu, Goku catches it! That's his ball, darn it! But there's an even bigger twist, because then Goku decides to eat the Dragon Ball! Oh my god! So basically, Gogeta only exists so that Goku gets a chance to eat a Dragon Ball just once before the franchise ends. You know, because that was a top priority. Also, hey, just spitballing here. If we were gonna give the characters plus energy power, wouldn't doing so after one of them swallowed a newly purified magical Dragon Ball at least be a slightly better time to do it? Maybe? Is it just me? Of course, that wouldn't fit with what they want to do with this, so just hold that thought. Anyway, it's at this point the fight gets really tedious, and that is saying something. The most interesting things featured in this episode are the Elder Kaioshin rocking out to the theme song, and Goku's trachea uncomfortably bulging due to swallowing a hard round object. That's because it's at this point the show spends an entire episode on Goku and Vegeta trying and failing to perform fusion again. Yeah, they just keep on trying. Yi Xing Long keeps on saying he won't let them do that. Then he punches at them and stuff. And this would already be boring enough. It would already be redundant enough because it's pretty much the same thing that happened when Goku's friends and family were powering him up. It's the same thing that happened last episode that I just got done talking about, but much faster when Goku's and Vegeta's friends and family were trying to buy time for them to perform this exact action. That's what turns this from tedious to infuriating. Gohan? Goten? Trunks? Where are you now? It takes until the 11-minute mark for the show to address this. Trunks even points out that they stepped in before, but Gohan stops them from trying because he says that the same move won't work on Yi Xing Long more than once. Oh, he has that too now, huh? Gohan also says stuff about movement and being outclassed and all the usual claptrap this show throws out as excuses for why they can't get involved, but none of that matters. You don't need to be able to hold your own or effectively land a single attack against him. You just need to distract him for 2 seconds. In less time than it took Gohan to say all of that, he could have accomplished it. Just throw a rock at his head. And I know that works because Vegeta does exactly that in this episode to distract Yi Xing Long from attacking Goku. Oh, and then Yi Xing Long tries to kill Vegeta. Man, sure would have been nice if someone pulled him out of harm's way. You know, like they did with Goku a few episodes ago. Too bad Gohan told everybody not to bother. You know what? Gohan really should be kept far, far away from fighting. He's an idiot. Hey, let's just stand around and watch our dads get killed. Eventually, at the very end of the episode, the show manages to come up with an interesting strategy of having Goku and Vegeta use Zanzo-Ken while they're performing fusion in order to trip Yi Xing Long up. It is satisfying to see their cleverness paying off, and Yi Xing Long genuinely flummoxed. It's certainly better than if the show had said that Goku and Vegeta can't be distracted from performing fusion more than once. Although that at least would have made this go by faster. But ultimately, the fusion still doesn't work because Goku doesn't have enough power left. In fact, he doesn't have enough power left to maintain Super Saiyan 4. So hey GT, you might have wasted an entire episode repeating a 5-second story loop, but at least the results were completely pointless. Thanks for that. Where can the fight possibly go from here? I mean, did it really go anywhere this time? Anyway, Dragon Ball Dissection December will continue on Christmas Day. I'm so excited, it's my favorite holiday. Remember that you can see the next episode right now as a $10 or higher patron, and you'd really be helping out the channel. Regardless of when we celebrate together, I look forward to seeing you in the next episode of Dragon Ball Dissection. We'll be covering the end of the Yi Xing Long fight, and we'll get a surprise appearance from a special Christmas guest. Is it Santa? Please let it be Santa.